What's up, Legends? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into Modern Warfare Zombies, and I'm bringing you guys the guide to unlock the new unstable rifts here in Season 4 Reloaded. Now, if you guys are unfamiliar with these new unstable rifts, essentially they will be somewhat similar to the Dark Ether rifts we've had in the past. It'll look more like one of the rift tears that you jump into that allows you to fly around the map. It'll just be red, and how you're going to actually unlock this and get access to this round-based style mode, I wouldn't really call it round-based. It's more like 5 individual waves with a bounty at the end of each wave, and if you survive all of the waves, you will get a cooldown on all the schematics you currently have on cooldown. On top of that, the first time you do complete it, you will also unlock a brand new camo, and I have to say this camo is pretty sick. So you're going to definitely want to go in and at least complete this one time in order to unlock that camo. So let's go ahead and dive into it. A couple things to keep in mind is you won't have to go into the match and go fully geared up in order to make your way over to this rift, setting yourself up best for success. The most important thing to do is just come equipped with the right weapons. I just did a video on my channel talking about the top 5 weapons to use solo in the high threat zone, Dark Ether, or even the unstable rift. So if you guys are looking for a reliable option, I definitely recommend going and checking that video out. I'll actually pin it in the comment down below. On top of that, what you're basically going to want to run as a secondary is an RGL. You can choose whether or not you want to run the aftermarket part with the slugs, which will give you a little bit more ammunition. And you're also going to want to pair it with dead wire detonators, as it's going to make this a little bit easier. Essentially, the RGL is going to be your ticket to success, alongside having another weapon to obviously take on the bounties, as the RGL doesn't really thrive when it comes to special or elites. So having 2 weapons, because both of them will become Pack Punch level 3, legendary, you're going to get all the perks except for Tombstone. For some reason, they decided whenever you come in, you can't have Tombstone, and you will not be using the Tombstone glitch in this new rift, so that is the only perk you won't have. But you are pretty much gifted the golden armor, the maga holding. As long as you have the weapons that will set you up for success, you're kind of already put in a good position. Outside of the weapons, and obviously the things that you will be given, you may want to grab Casimirs, as those aren't going to be given to you. You might want to bring an Ether Blade, as that's not going to be given to you. And obviously anything else like backup self-revives that you think might help you along this journey, as it is going to be a very tough instance. Now, once you're actually prepared to take on this challenge, you guys are going to be headed into Urzikstan, and unfortunately, unlike previous rifts that we've unlocked, this isn't something that you do one time, it unlocks the rift, and then you have access to that permanently. This is something you're going to have to repeat each and every match in order to get access to an unstable rift. And it is also important to note more than one rift can spawn in per game. So if another team gets a rift, you'll still have access to go in and complete the exact same steps, unlocking yourself another rift that you hopefully are the first to make it over to, accessing it, giving you access to the new unstable rift. Now, what you're going to be looking for is if you have completed the story missions, these are going to be very familiar to you, but you're going to be looking for these pillars, podiums. I'm going to call them seals, as that's what it says when you go to activate them. But basically, these seals can be randomly generated around the map. Now, they do have set spawns. However, unfortunately, there are a ton of them. I, at this point, have a map that I have in progress where I have at least 18 of the possible locations, maybe even 19 of the possible locations for these. So I will be sharing these on the screen, or this map on the screen, so that way you guys will have a better idea of where you should be looking. Because if I just tell you each of the locations that I went to in order to find my seals, you might just go to those locations, have no luck, and think that maybe it's not working for you. And it is important to note it can even be in locations that I don't have on my map. These are just going to help guide you in the right direction. There has been many matches where I've gotten all the ones that I already have on the map. Then there was other times, obviously, where I was able to add new locations because I went to all the locations that I knew of and I wasn't able to find them. Another piece of crucial information is when the match starts, they're not available immediately. I think it's about 10 minutes into the match. I think the earliest that I've seen one is around the 35-minute mark. So just plan to wait at least 10 minutes into the match before you start looking for them, because it is possible that you'll go over to a location, look for it, not see one, and have to come back around to that same location later, realizing that there is one actually there. The reality is there probably wasn't one when you went there the first time. You just didn't wait long enough. Coming back to it the second time, obviously enough time had passed. Now it's available. Now these are exactly the same as they were in the story missions. You'll be headed over to them, being able to activate them. Now each of these pedestals, pillars, or seals will have an ammo mod symbol on them. If it's a lightning bolt, obviously it's dead wire. If it has the skull, it's going to be brain rot. If it has the fire, obviously napalm. And then with the snowflake, we have the cryo freeze. What you're going to need to do is have that specific ammo mod equipped to your weapon. You'll then activate that seal. I think it won't even allow you to activate it unless you have the proper ammo mod, but I could be wrong about that. It did seem like that when I was playing with my buddy. He was unable to activate it. I had the ammo mod. It allowed me to then activate it. And then we were able to move forward. But essentially, once you activate it, it will put a ring around this pillar pedestal seal. What you're going to then need to do is get eliminations on zombies that enter that area. It will be pretty obvious once they enter that area that they have then been affected. You can then eliminate them. You will know that the kills are counting appropriately, as you will see their souls entering the orb, kind of like a soul box would in previous zombie installments, or even those triangles if you're familiar with the high threat zone or play a lot of zombies. But as long as those souls are entering the orb, you're in good shape. You're going to continue to follow this process until the pedestal is destroyed, exposing a reward rift, which will have a couple of goodies in it, sometimes some ammo mods you might need for other pillars, pedestals, or seals. Then what you're going to need to do is head over to another location. Now, my best recommendation for this, although I don't think you are limited to any specific zone, is to head into the tier 3 zone or tier 2 zone, or even start in the tier 1 zone. Doesn't matter what order you go into, but stick to one zone, find one, and then go to your next zone. So if you start in tier 1, head over to your first seal, make sure you find it. You'll grab that first seal, then you'll go into tier 2 to find your second one. Again, it is possible that there will be more than one of them in the exact same zone, but my belief is, and you guys will have to let me know down in the comment section below after you've tried it, is that once you actually find one in a specific zone and complete it, it will spawn another one in that zone. So if you're in tier 1 looking for them, you more than likely are only going to come across one of them alive at the exact same time, or one of them in existence at the right time. But once you complete that, another one might spawn in tier 1 for another team to be able to grab. The reason I'm under this impression is I went all around the map in all of these locations looking for them. Then once I actually completed the one in the tier 1 zone, I went into the next zone, never really thinking about looking in tier 1 or the same zone that I'd already completed it in. And when I went and did it another time, we actually managed to find another one in the tier 2 zone after having completed one earlier in the match. I think it is also possible that you could do 3 in the exact same zone. I don't think it matters what zones you choose, how many of them you do and that are the exact same ammo mod. I don't think any of that matters. I think it's just important that you find 3 of these locations on the map. Again, I'm going to do my best to share my map on the screen throughout this video. That way you guys will be able to find these locations, but you'll head over to it, and you need to do this at 3 different pedestals. Now, one thing that I'm not 100% certain on, but I do think could become an issue, is in one of my matches, I went over to the first pedestal, I knocked it out, went over to my second pedestal, knocked it out, and I was on my way to the third one when I assume another team did knock one out because a portal then spawned in. The other player headed right over to it as it spawned right next to them. As they were the one that completed the last seal, they then entered that portal. I was no longer able to obviously get access to it because the portal disappeared. Then I headed over to a third one just to make sure it wasn't individually based. I did complete my third one, and I did not get an extra portal. So it is possible that it is the first 3 done in a match, or 3 of these done in any general time frame, that will spawn a specific portal. Then once that portal disappears, 3 more will more than likely need to be completed for another rift to spawn in. So once somebody actually does complete a rift or one pops up, it is very possible you will have to complete 3 more, no matter what progress you've made into unlocking a rift. But once you've made your way around the map, identifying the locations of at least 3 of these, then being able to complete the process, you will then spawn in your unstable rift. You will then want to head over to it because it is first come, first serve. So even if another team sees your rift, because it will be shown to everyone on the map, and they head over to it before you make it in, they will get that rift and you will not. So that is one of the negative things to this new unstable rift. It is more than likely you can convince people to join up with you. You guys could go in with a full 6-man, but it is important to keep in mind that once you do that last one, your portal will pop up and you're going to want to make your way over to it as quickly as possible. So now that we have access to the rift, let's talk about what we can expect. Now, like I said earlier, you're going to get automatically access to Pack-a-Punch level 3 on every weapon you have equipped. You'll have a legendary tool equipped on both weapons as long as you have 2 of them. You'll have all the perks except for Tombstone. And again, none of your lethals or tacticals will be affected, so bring in your own Ether Blade, bring in Casimir's. You could even bring in kill streaks if you would like. You will get reward rifts at the end of each of the waves after you kill the bounty that does spawn in, and then you will get some rewards that way, like kill streaks and stuff that you can use to further make this journey easier. I already mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to mention it again. I absolutely recommend at least one of your weapons being the RGL with the dead wire detonators. It does help if you have the aftermarket part equipped with the slugs. And then on top of that, just have a reliable weapon that you can help take out the bounties with, or the elites in general, as the RGL isn't all that great. Some of you might choose to run a crossbow on top of it. I don't personally enjoy the crossbow all that much, so I'm going to use the RGL with maybe something like the Ram 9, the MTZ 556, even the FJX Taurus. and I'll be setting myself up for success. Now, once you actually enter into this rift, you're going to be in a very limited space, which should be very obvious from the ring or storm that is completely surrounding you. You're going to have to stay within this small confined space. And once things start off, it goes pretty slowly. In the first wave, you can expect the end boss or bounty to be a mimic. This is going to be a pretty straightforward mimic, just like any other bounty you've ever taken on. I definitely recommend once you make your way in, you can place down sentry guns if you have them. But I definitely recommend, no matter how big or small your team size is, to go at the top of the stair set, as you guys can see us hanging out in a majority of this footage, where you will then be able to watch not only the bottom of the stairs, where a majority of the enemies will come up, you'll be able to watch the other doorway to the left, where a majority of the other enemies that aren't coming up those stairs will also come up. So between those two areas, that will be all of the space that the enemies will actually attack you from. So it's pretty easy to kind of funnel them all to one spot, and everybody can kind of just blast their RGLs, fire their weapons, and it makes it pretty easy and straightforward. Alongside, everyone's all in the same space, so it is a little bit more like a shield, or easier to protect each other when you're kind of all in those close quarters. Now, the length of these waves will be determined based on how long it takes you to destroy all of the enemies required to spawn in that bounty. It is important to note you do have a 45-minute timer. However, you should have more than enough time left over, as long as you guys aren't struggling tremendously, to actually make it through all of the waves. Like I said, the first wave, it will start out slow. You'll finally make it toward the end. A mimic will spawn in. You'll eliminate the mimic. A reward rift will pop up. There's a little bit of a downtime before the next wave starts. Then when the next wave starts, you're going to do the exact same process you did in the first wave. You're going to destroy it. Reward rift will pop up. You're headed into the third wave. The exact same thing is going to happen. You're going to clear all the enemies until the disciple bounty shows up. You'll eliminate the disciple bounty to go into wave 4. In wave 4, we're going to have a ton more zombies than we did in the first 3 waves. You're going to continue to make your way through them. Eventually, the mimic will spawn once again, this time being the EMP mimic available in the Season 2 rift. Finally, after completing that, you will be in the last and final wave, wave 5. Now, wave 5 is not all that difficult except for the final boss. The final boss is the exact same boss you see in the Season 3 Dark Aether rift. Gyanxi, I think is what its name is. And if you don't eliminate it quick enough, which luckily in my run we were able to do so, it will spawn in those minions. If you haven't actually done the Season 3 rift, this will probably shock you. You will need to eliminate the minions if they are spawned in order to then be able to damage the main boss. If the main boss does spawn these minions in and you're just firing at the main boss, you're not going to be doing any damage whatsoever, and it's only going to get more difficult because these guys, the longer they live, the more of a hassle they are going to become. So you're going to eliminate all of its minions. It could be mimics, manglers, possibly even a disciple or two. I'm not actually sure if that's even an option, but you'll want to get rid of its minions at the very least. Then you'll be able to focus back on that main boss once again, and you'll be able to take it out. It's just going to be the boss disciple, like I said, from the Season 3 rift. And at the end of that last and final wave, you'll complete that boss. At this point, if this was your first run, of course, it will unlock that brand new camo, which again is pretty sick. I think even people that don't normally play zombies are going to want to get access to this because it just looks that good. But regardless, at this point, you'll eliminate the rest of the enemies if there's any left. There will be a very similar rift to the one you entered that will pop up, allowing you to exit that unstable rift, unlocking your camo, and cooling down all your schematics. But that's going to wrap things up for today's guide on the unstable rifts here in Season 4 Reloaded. Thank you guys for all the support in today's video, all the support the channel. I look forward to seeing y'all in the next one. Peace.